Hello, everybody, indeed. Welcome to Metanorn's Mini Talk on Log Horizon. We are finally getting together to discuss episodes 21 through 25 as we wrap up Season 2 of Log Horizon. I'm J-Ro, joined by Foshizzle.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
And Skyline joins us for this edition.
Hello, everyone.
And let's get right to it with the last 5 episodes. We're not going to go episode by episode. We're going to kind of generalize as we work our way toward the final ending and final raid boss from this season. In 21, we saw the end of the kids' journey, and they come back, and we start to see signs of things not going quite as well. We kind of get back into some of the stuff that we saw from roundtable discussions, as there's some apathy, kind of this weird feeling in Akihabara, and we also see a guy going around basically romancing people. Not really a suave guy or anything like that, but he's got some kind of magic or something that is just swooning girls to him immediately, and then things kind of break bad once he kind of asks Sojiro to marry him.
Yeah, it got kind of weird. But I guess they're trying to reveal that some creature that possessed him, and it was, I guess he has like the hypno power, so you were saying that he says a few phrases and it gets the girl to fall for him, which is a little weird.
Mm-hmm. It's not exactly unheard of in anime when you get right down to it, but it was pretty well used that episode and on throughout the entire plot.
Yeah, it's like not really a threatening creature or whatever you want to call it, but it was still a hint at things to come later on, I guess.
Well, yeah, I always remember from the Harry Potter universe how dangerous love spells are and things like that, and how they absolutely forbid those because, in real life that can lead to murder.
Yeah, sure.
We learn a little bit more about Roe 2 during this stretch of episodes, that Shiroi had an unused character, and that's basically what Roe 2 is, and she kind of there's a little bit of explanation going on about how she's, technically an artificial being, and she's sent to search for other universes for a resource called Empathians, and this plays a bit into the final raid boss.
Yeah, that was a little weird that she's technically like an alt he created a while back, made his first character, kind of left it and made his main, and like you said, somehow it got self-aware and now it's walking around doing things, and so technically she refers to herself as his sister because it was his creation, which is kind of weird. I would think maybe it'd be considered maybe his daughter instead, because he obviously created that character, so, but maybe they're just playing it, well, he's a young guy still, they don't want to be kind of creepy about it, but still, that, it was weird that, like you said, gets this, and she starts doing whatever she wants on her own, so, strange.
I was kind of under the impression that whatever sort of alien being she is, she just found that character unused and then grabbed it and started using it because she had a liking to it or something like that. And as far as the whole little sister thing goes, I mean, that's just a nature she borrowed from somebody, or maybe that's her true alien nature. She wants everyone to worship her as a big sister, and she sees a big brother in him.
Yeah,
definitely.
and since
I mean, she's a cool character, but I would, I think that's the last we see of her, so it's like kind of sad to see her go. But yeah, she was interesting at least.
Yeah, well, I kind of wonder, like, how much more could she factor in? I mean, obviously she can, they might find some things for her to do in the future, but I'm kind of curious of how they would include her in that.
Yeah, I mean, she certainly is powerful. She did summon that giant summon out of nowhere and just, like, owned all those wyverns like it was nothing, so she is certainly powerful enough.
She kind of feels in a way like the writer Mamare just basically wanted to make a character that could explain some exposition and kick ass when you get right down to it. She feels, in the realm of like tabletop RPGs, she kind of feels like the uber powerful NPC that the DM makes up and inserts into the game when the characters get stuck or need to get to the next level or something like that.
Right, I mean, I can see that because around that time, they're kind of lagging a little bit behind what they had. They're focused on the kids for a little too long. So the story was kind of still. So okay, we gotta get back into the story, so put her in there.
Yep.
It makes sense. Yeah.
It did feel like an episode's worth of material, not like one episode over the other, but like an episode's worth of material could have been cut from that adventure.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing that, I kind of feel like overall this season is that some things kind of dragged on a little bit. And
oh yeah,
that's a factor of why I would say I like season 1 over season 2. But moving along through the rest of these episodes here, we had an episode with Isaac and Iselas, the brother of Princess Lanesia, and this was an episode that, while the majority of it was spent sort of established, kind of getting to know Isaac a little bit more, and we're so used to seeing him as kind of like a tough guy. He's the leader of his own clan, and he's very strong, but you kind of see a bit of a softer side, a more kinder side of Isaac, but it also sets up the events that happen in the last 2 episodes with the raid.
Yeah, like you said, he's a guy that kind of can't really approach easily. He's very scary on the outside looking, and this little kid, he has no fear at all of him, just like gives him a nickname, and everyone kind of gives him this little nickname, and he just kind of he always tells them like, stop saying that, but they keep doing it. And yeah, he's that kind of character that he's just, maybe it's all an act when he really wants to get close to these people, but yeah, but he's stuck training these NPCs, and maybe I felt he kind of felt like he was pushed to the side, like he has no real job, so he has to train these people. And he probably felt like, this is not what I want to do, but he started slowly getting used to it, and I think enjoying it.
Wasn't Isaac the one who initially didn't think that the people of the land would be like interested in any kind of warfare, if not against each other, then against the Akihabarans or the adventurers when you get right down to it?
Right, yeah, he favors more combat. He doesn't want to protect anybody or be a guard for anything. So yeah, I think that's the same.
Or train soldiers in a war that he doesn't think is going to happen.
True.
And from there we get into the last 2 episodes of the series, which is a raid. So there is a place called the Calling Fortress, and there's this big sort of communication at the tower where the final boss rests, and Shirei and Logcries and all them, they get all together and they form a group, and you kind of see Shirei being a little bit unsure of himself. Now there is a little bit of uncertainty that everybody has coming into it, but we're so used to Shirei being, on top of things that it's surprising when he's kind of, stumbling to call orders or actually say, no, actually, don't do that, actually go here instead. And we see Rize and a lot of others kind of question it, like, what's up, Shirei?
Yeah, that part is a little strange for me because we've seen him previous in the season kind of leave this raid. Yeah, he failed a couple times. They didn't really tell how many times he failed, but he was struggling with that, and they won. But to see him struggle with this was kind of like, are they just saying he's not a very good leader? I mean, I thought they've established that he is good at this and knows what he's doing.
I think what it was with that is that we were seeing a lot of players that hadn't played with him before. They were at most only familiar of the legend, so when they saw that, they were like, well, really? They talk about this guy like he's so hot?
The villain in glasses is nothing more than human.
Go ahead, sorry.
I got the general impression that as long as Shirei knows the outcome is on a map and raid is on a map, he's damn confident because he knows that map like the back of his hand at every single time. But this particular raid, it had a goal in mind that was uncertain. And the levels that of monsters that they were throwing at it was uncertain, weren't following any established rules that he knew of that the game was playing. So he's a master of the game, and now it's really not going to be a game anymore. There's some stakes that you can't quite quantify anymore, like just getting gold or a drop or something like that with a percentage behind it.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, they did say that this raid that opened was brand new, wasn't in the game. No one knew about it, so I guess, going in fully blind, there's no strategy or anything. And I've been in those situations where, usually when I can get a raid, and someone's usually done it before us, so we got kind of we can follow how they did it, maybe a guide. And there's been chances where I've gone in with them before, and I've never been there before, so everyone's completely lost.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's dying left and right, so then you gotta retrain someone that's brand new to your style of leading. So yeah, I guess that would run into a bunch of issues with Shiro.
That and the end game, the end stakes. I mean, he was confused about the issue of whether or not he had his mind clouded by, is it possible to leave this game? What's this communication with this moon server? The goal in mind wasn't firm, and so that kind of, I think, shook his resolve.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot more riding on it, like you said, than some extra gold riding on the fact that they could actually get out of this game.
It's kind of interesting to think of it from a game perspective again, is that they're getting new content on a pretty frequent basis, all things considered. So where, like, you wait for an expansion of a game, which could take months in between, and in some ways this is part of their daily lives, and all of a sudden this thing comes up, and it's brand new content. And you mentioned about going in blind, that they're pretty much going to be doing that with all of these raids that they partake in the future. We're not going to see, we're not going to see them do the same raid every week and hope for good awards or something.
Right.
Yeah.
That, not to mention the levels differences. I mean, they brought in much of the younger characters too. They are not high level. They're still inexperienced, so kind of like a little bit of a handicap for him there. The older high level ones got to kind of watch the younger ones. So they're doing that, and what about the raid? So there's so much going on in that raid, so yeah, I could see. Yeah.
I'd like to know the level difference and how that affects attacks and such. I mean, the obvious assumption is that, enemies can do more damage to you and you don't do as much damage to them, but I'm wondering, like, some more concrete numbers on the difference.
I mean, I'll look at more like a kind of like a Pokemon situation where, if you got someone obviously low level fighting something higher, the higher one's probably gonna like dominate you, like 2-shot, oh, you're dead. The lower one's probably just like scratch and like, oh, that tickles, like they didn't do anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, the level difference is probably doesn't really help Shiro in that raid, but yeah.
And then we see in the final episode that kind of Shiro gets everything in order, figures out what it is exactly, as Skyline mentioned, the end goal is, and they handle the final boss with relative ease, and everybody gets their moment to kind of shine, and Rize kind of gets pumped up and realizes that she has a long way to go, seeing how strong of a leader Shiro is.
Yeah, cause for a while there she was kind of doubting him, like Skyline was saying. She was kind of doubting his, like you said, they talked about him all the time, he's this legendary player, he knows what he's doing, he's so skilled, and she's just kind of like, I don't see that, but yeah, at the end she's starting to come around that. Now I see what people are talking about. Yeah, I thought it was funny that the raid's actually in their backyard, like in the same city. And I was like,
yeah,
well, you guys could have found that like 1 season ago.
Well, the invaders, the expansion content happened, and that just happened to include whatever these alien beings or whatever they are.
Yeah, but yeah, I agree with Gerald. They did handle that last boss kind of easily. It was kind of like, just taunt, and he taunts, and like they defeat him. Like, wow, that was easy. After, you would think the hardest boss in the game would be like,
he looked
killing
like
people left and right.
Sitting up in that on top of that building, he looked like a scrub going in and getting right down to it. So what? Old guy with a beard, big deal.
Yeah.
Before we get to the whole radio thing that Regan was working on, we see a little bit with Plant Huaiden and Nuriha. We see Yurei and Kanami conversation. We could talk a little bit about Plant Huaiden, as we see a conversation going on with one of the former members of the Tea Party and one of the bigwigs with Huaiden, and then Nuriha comes in, and Nuriha, who we had thought of as basically just a puppet for them, she's kind of taking control of things now.
Yeah, she's interesting. I mean, in that last couple of scenes, she's just, like I said, for a long time we figured she was just kind of being, led along. She's a puppet. She's just this figurehead, and she actually tells that, I forgot her name, but tells her to stop this war. It's pointless. It's kind of, and she just was basically trying to backtalk her, and the other guy stepped in like, no, listen to her. So it was kind of interesting to see her actually step up and do something, because Plant Huaiden, they didn't really do a whole lot. I mean, they've kind of hyped him up as being this this group of NPCs are, trying to take over the game, but they really didn't do a whole lot to the story, I would say.
Yeah, I would say that their thumbprint on the series isn't as big as I expected from them.
It was kind of like an awful lot of hot air, but the balloon didn't rise, really.
Yeah, that's true.
And then let's get to the radio thing. Regan sets up this communication. The concept was that, they were going to communicate with the moon, and, the whole thing about the figuring out how to get between the real world and the Elder Tale world. And they end up talking to Konami on the other end, who is telling Shirei, a little bit about what's going on and stuff. And then, of course, with the whole romance thing, Midori and Akatsuki are sitting there very interested, listening in on it. And then that's when Konami just lets it out that she actually had a kid, and I forget how old she said the kid was going to be, like 3 or kids.
I recall one kid about 3 years old. Really.
3 years old, okay.
Right, and she was talking about how she wants to kind of preserve this world and kind of show her kid this world. So she didn't want to completely wipe out get out of the game, but yeah, there's a talk between them about, this different servers. So it's very weird that they, have this whole different server setup thing where you can communicate with each other. But yeah, I guess that's the whole thing about this show. The servers are broken up into different areas. So yeah.
Wonder what the American server is like.
Oh, probably like behind the expansion. That's probably where we are. We're only available to 85. So yeah.
and a really bad language patch.
Yeah. The weapons don't work. So yeah, that's my experience with those. But yeah, those two kind of talking was kind of funny. I mean, they kind of hinted at the very beginning that these two are very special to each other, and then they kind of, I would say, squash that.
Yeah.
Revealing that she has someone in the real world already that she's with. But they really didn't establish that. But yeah, it's like kind of squashed that dream of him ever getting with her. So maybe Akatsuki and the other girl kind of feel like, oh, hopeful, we can get with him. Like, I don't think so.
He still has a thing for her.
Right.
Strike one girl off the Shirei sweepstakes board.
Yeah.
And then during that, out of nowhere, Krusty's back. He makes a brief appearance at the end of this last episode. Just kind of say that, hey, please, I'm just hanging out with Konami and Leonardo, I believe is the one's name, and we're just gonna chill.
Right, and he's sporting like a new hand, a mechanical hand. So he still lost that, and he really didn't explain what happened to him. But I guess we're under the assumption that he transferred servers, and yeah, so going from the Japanese server to the Chinese server, I guess took his hand. I don't know why, but apparently it did. So
remember, he was a victim of the great read the text description on your weapon fiasco, and so maybe that took something from him when you get right down to it, or maybe there was a writer on that contract that you automatically get transported to the next available server when that happens to you.
That's right. Maybe instead of dying, that you go. That's weird. Effect of a weapon. You transfer servers. Like what? And did anyone else think it was kind of funny when he's talking to Konami and all of a sudden the cord breaks and the guy's sitting there holding both ends of the cable?
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, you ripped that in half.
Yeah.
You jerk. Like, you ruined the plot. Like whatever.
It's like,
I thought it was
what
kind
have you
of
got to hide, Regan?
He's like, oops, it broke. Like, no, that looked like you ripped it in half.
Yeah, that's one of those things where, we hadn't seen, Regan was kind of unique this season because I would have thought his character to be a little bit more on the deceptive side, where he was kind of really just following along with Shirei, and, that's one very minor thing that you could think like, why did that happen?
Yeah, it's like he's a character you might want to keep an eye on. And part of me just thinks he just maybe doesn't know what he is, and they probably feel, he's a GM of the server, and he doesn't really remember.
I was just going to say, when we were talking about him in that fashion, he kind of reminds me of like a very minor version of Tom Bombadil from the Lord of the Rings books. It's just kind of like, Tolkien's surrogate into that world. And it's just like he tells him all about the ring, he tells him all about the danger, and he has a cute little girlfriend or something like that off to the side. And, it's just, I'd go out with you on this quest, but that's not for me. That's for you guys to do. That's your quest. He's just kind of there to fill in the gaps and kind of push them along when they need to, kind of like Ro.
Oh, yeah, he does that from time to time. You say something that Shiro will hear and go, oh, that's a great idea, and kind of play onto that and investigate it. So I guess he's he helps him, but yeah, also he's very sneaky. Like you said, Jerry, he pops up out of nowhere. Okay, where did he use that?
If his boots are yellow, he's definitely Bombadil.
And then in the epilogue of the series, you see Regan skipping out on repairing the radio equipment to join the festivities, basically settling that, we're not going to be seeing a season 3, anytime soon.
Right, the epilogue's kind of like, we're here in this world and we're just going to keep living here and make the best of it.
Yeah, that's...
And, enjoy each other's company, basically.
That kind of... with everything they built up, that's a real bad way to end it, but it's the best way they possibly could end it. Just looking at the spread of books, the most recent one was published on March 27th of this year, and the one behind that was September 29th of 2014. So that's 2 novels worth of material that they probably haven't even bothered to animate yet.
Yeah.
The last one is December of 2013. He's a...
And I would imagine it would be too soon.
And it makes me wonder, too, because, this season was picked up by Dean. Yeah, so it makes you wonder, was that an issue with the first season that maybe the studio that did it before saw it wasn't doing so hot, so we gotta push it to someone else. And it almost makes you a little worried that if season 3 comes out, who will grab it this time? Will Dean push it to someone else?
Despite you think Dean is actually a pretty big studio when you get right down to it.
Oh yeah, yeah. They really didn't handle much of the animation stuff. All I was told was, they're just the ones that are distributing it, basically.
Distributing the power.
Right. Yeah. While everyone else was still on board with the series, but it makes me think of Manon McKay did the same thing. That was passed around from several studios when it was first airing, like season 1, 2, and 3, all different studios.
Yeah.
So it gives me this may be doing the same thing with Log Horizon, which I'm kind of disappointed with. But if they keep the same people on board, it means it should be fine.
Yeah, because overall this season, outside of some face designs, you really couldn't tell a difference between
I couldn't,
1 and 2. It was just a matter of the story that was being adapted, and there's no way you could blame a studio when they adapt a story as generally well as I believe they did.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing about the series that I really like. We're probably gonna talk about the overall thoughts, but I feel like there's not just one key character that's the main OP character. And in this series, I like how they they spread it out so a bunch of characters get to have their moments, and yeah, that's kind of why I like this series so far. I want another season, but I think like you said, we gotta wait.
My question to you on that subject is, do you think it's a good idea for Log Horizon to spread out and have other characters highlighted like the way they had Akatsuki highlighted in an episode with Isaac, and then there's the journey with the kids?
Yeah, for me, I kind of wish I think we said earlier that they kind of cut back on some of those episodes. I think they could easily wrap their journey up within these 4 or 5 episodes. That one felt like it was like 10 episodes, like a big chunk of the season.
Yeah.
Was following these kids around. It was kind of like, I like the kids, but it's like, give them some screen time, that's fine, but, I want to see them do something heroic, not just kind of, Roe 2 comes around and, okay, they're done. She kind of came in and kind of stole everything,
I think
I would say.
The problem that I feel about the moments when they go to those other characters is that their stories are very separated from the overall story. It feels very isolated, and because of that, while we're getting progress on Akatsuki or the kids, it feels like there's very little to no progression in the overall story, where I find Log Horizon to be the strongest.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they spent so much time on the characters. We really didn't get that chunk of story till about the last 2 episodes. Of there's a way out of the game. They got to fight the monsters.
Yeah.
The aliens are here apparently, and so yeah, I think you're right on that. And some of the characters do get pushed to the side. Natsugu, and especially, I don't think he got very much progression in his character as far as maybe the pairings go. Which people would argue that Log Horizon is not about that, about the pairings and stuff. It's more about them getting out of the game. But for me, I'm like, that's true. But also, they do focus on the pairings.
Yeah.
They want you to know that these people are gonna hook up eventually.
Don't even begin to show it unless you're going to resolve it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some extra points here. We've talked about the studio. We've talked about some of our thoughts on some of the other characters. So we're kind of left with an ending that kind of feels like that's one that the anime could end on, and of course there's more novels that could be adapted in the future. Do you think that did you think the ending was okay, good, not so good?
I would say about kind of not so good. I mean, I wanted some little hint towards there being, a real way out of the game. Maybe they could have easily shown a shot of like a new character that appeared in the game that just logged in for the first time and knows the truth, knows who's behind all this. And yeah, that's kind of my disappointment. I wanted to at least reveal who was responsible for all this, like why they stuck in this game. At least give us a hint of that, I would say.
Yeah, like all endings with a lot of anime, it always seems like a necessary evil, doesn't it? We don't really necessarily want this to end, but guess what? That's the reality of the situation. So we've got to do an ending anyway. And then, as Shirobako taught us, the anime original ending versus letting the creator finish up his own story at his own pace. Anime audiences want some sense of closure, deserve a sense of closure for following you for 3 months, and all those things get brought up. There's enough material. It looks like the way the writer progresses that, when it began fall last year, that by fall next year, they could have a third season out because it looks like they do about 3 novels per 2 core.
I find the ending okay. It was sort of conclusive in a way that if they didn't make any more, I wouldn't feel like, oh man, that was, like there are some anime that are very guilty of just hyping the shit out of future events and Kami-sama dolls, and it never happens. And
Attack on Titan.
although Titan is such a big money maker, I feel like they've got to make that at some point. I think.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, like ending it in a certain way that the manga readers are like, WTF, like that's an important moment.
Well,
So it's like, oh, what are you doing that for?
I mean,
Log Horizon's almost the same thing.
Attack on Titan is jumping mediums when you get right down to it. They've got to get to film. They're busy with the film version, the live action film.
Oh yeah.
With today's stuff they do, you could probably easily do a live action film of Log Horizon in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Right, you could. But yeah, I agree with Daryl. It's kind of ending where, like you said, a lot of shows in the anime do the same ending where you're like, oh, okay, well, see you later, I guess. Maybe see more of this.
It's a very Japanese thing when you get right down to it. By storytelling principles, they don't like endings when you get right down to it. It's a fussy thing. Why are you worried about the ending when the progress is still happening and that sort of thing? It's one of those things, and it's always going to come up in anime, isn't it?
And they went
for
a sort of a life goes on story.
Yeah.
But with so much we've seen of this world, we kind of want something. We wanted to, I guess in some ways, I guess it could be argued that, I wanted something a little bigger from it.
Yeah, I still want the clue to like what happened, what's really going on and all that.
Yeah. Read the novels, actually. They're not light novels. They're considered full-fledged novels.
Yeah, no, the whole thing about the real world, I wonder, if we get any more anime or if we decide to read light novels, like how much more that plays into what happens in the game, because you think about like how long they've been playing this game. You got to think about what their bodies have been stuck in for the whole time. And
yeah, they never quite, well, because they kind of make it from the very beginning that it's not a full dive like it is in Sword Art Online. You're in front of your computer, aren't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I mean, I've read a lot of comic books and manga. I can easily think of somehow their bodies, their physical bodies, through some power being transferred into energy.
Right.
Oh yeah.
It's energy now. You see that? I see that hand waving right there.
Yeah.
It did say something about technology being far advanced than what they're used to using. So
Yeah.
or maybe we have a whole situation where again they mention aliens. So they're doing a little sci-fi with that.
Oh my God, and Pantheons. I mean, is this powered by memories again? Please let it not be powered by memories again.
It probably is because
the whole thing about dying.
Yeah, when they die, they lose memories.
Oh gosh.
So that's a very, very big possibility.
That is one trope that never deserved.
Yeah, I agree.
Valvrave and Chaika. Oh.
Now that that's brought up, and especially with the Valvrave comparison, I'm kind of feeling a little bit more fine with the ending in that, maybe we don't need to see more.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right.
This one I'd like to. They set up Akihabara. They set up that world as a place that these characters were living in, and by doing that by proxy, they kind of made us feel incredibly comfortable there as well. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I enjoyed about it. It felt, after about 4 episodes in the first series, it always felt like a very comfortable, familiar place, no matter where they were. So that's a part of the thing I miss.
Mm-hmm. And I was more happy about the fact that they don't panic about the whole being trapped in the game world.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of look at it and okay, this is what's going to happen, and this is how we're going to adapt. And they kept that theme throughout the whole series. Yeah. There's a few moments when some characters do freak out that there's that trapped in this game.
This is what's in front of me.
Right, like the guys that Minori's sister brother was fighting. They wanted to get out of the game no matter what. They hated it. They didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, they did keep a good balance on that.
They had a different thought process on, telling a story about being stuck in a game where, what if that's what all you had? And they, kind of worked within the concept of a game and bringing people from real life into the game and trying to manage all that while still playing essentially a video game.
Right, because the NPCs and all that were still pretty much a very big part of the game still.
Mm-hmm. So any other thoughts to add before we sign off for the end?
I think the only thing I would say is I'll probably miss Akatsuki and Shiro and a lot of these characters. They're a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I wanted to see them get together, officially confess to each other, but they're not going to. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the key characters are very, very fun to watch. And I'll probably miss them a lot. Weekly, I guess. Yeah.
Well, not so, and his shoulder toy ever do the thing.
Right, the big pop idol star, whatever you want to call him.
Yep. That can fit to any crevice. Well, she can't fit through any crevice, but she certainly can fit inside armor. That's just the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so that has been our mini talk for Log Horizon. Thank you for tuning in to these throughout the season. As for podcasting at Metanorn, I am doing Metaverse each week. And Fosh, what's going to be happening with mini talks for the spring season?
I think we're going to do Punchline and Hokage no Pilates. We'll do that. Those two, and maybe some other audio stuff here and there. I know we have a Gintama First Impression coming out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give a kill on that. So yeah, we're doing more of that, and I might be doing a little more audio things here. By myself, I like Show by Rock. I might do that as audio, and a few other things that maybe slip through the cracks. But yeah, we're getting new people here soon, and it's very exciting.
Yeah, Gintama got in the news for making fun of a Japanese politician.
Yep, it was very, very funny.
But that was great. I mean, you didn't have to know a thing about Gintama. You didn't have to know a thing about the bloody politician, and it was freaking hilarious.
Yep.
Were you going to say something, Skyline?
Oh, that's what I was saying.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, for Fosh, for Skyline, I'm J-Ro. Thanks for listening. see you next time on Mini Talks.